Yes, I'm sure it's a tip. I mean, all the things, I spent 4 years researching this book, but I mean, even so, it's only the testimony of the people I found, and I only had 300 people out of 3,000 people that I identified and approached.
Prince Andrew is back in the headlines again, and not because of a royal duty or family milestone. This time, it's over disturbing claims about how he allegedly treated palace staff behind closed doors. According to multiple insiders, Andrew insisted on strict obedience, demanded staff bow to him, and imposed strange, humiliating punishments when protocol wasn't followed exactly. These aren't minor slip-ups or harmless eccentricities. They paint a picture of power exercised in private, away from public view. So why are these stories resurfacing now? And what does this say about how the palace handled them for years? Prince Andrew's recent reappearance was supposed to pass quietly. No headlines, no commentary, no follow-up questions. Just a brief, controlled moment meant to signal normality. Instead, it did the opposite. Because when someone who has been stripped of titles, duties, and public trust suddenly steps back into view, people don't look away. They look closer. The setting itself felt deliberate. A private family christening, no grand entrances, no smiles for cameras. Andrew and Sarah Ferguson arrived, stayed just long enough to be seen, and then left early. While other family members reportedly went on to a relaxed pub gathering, Andrew and Sarah did not join them. That detail mattered. It suggested distance, not just socially, but institutionally. And it immediately raised a question the palace would rather avoid. If Andrew is truly sidelined, why is he still appearing at all? For months, the royal strategy around Andrew has been painfully clear. Say less, show less, let time do the work. The fewer appearances he makes, the fewer reminders the public has of the controversies that refuse to fade. But this appearance broke that rhythm. It reopened a door many assumed was finally closed. And once that door opened, the past rushed back in. Within days, old allegations began circulating again. Not rumors pulled from tabloids, but claims sourced from people who worked inside the palace system itself. Former staff, insiders, aides who say they witnessed Andrew's behavior firsthand. The timing was not accidental. This resurgence is closely tied to renewed attention on Andrew Loney's book, The Rise and Fall of the House of York, which documents years of alleged conduct that never received a formal reckoning.
The King has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew.
What makes this moment different is not just the content of the allegations, it's the context. Andrew is no longer protected by the armor of royal duty. He holds no official role. His titles are gone. His public standing is shattered. And yet, the institution still appears uneasy about fully confronting his past. That tension is exactly why these stories now carry more weight than they did before. According to Loney, palace insiders had long feared that Andrew's treatment of staff would eventually become public. There were concerns about complaints, worries about historical bullying claims surfacing, anxiety that stories of shouting, intimidation, and rigid control would collide with the monarchy's carefully managed image. Those fears never materialized in an official inquiry, and that absence continues to raise uncomfortable questions.
72 teddy bears on his bed, a laminated card which is in the side drawer of one of the bedroom cabinets of a picture of these teddy bears, all in situ. He said if they don't, he shouts and screams.
Why were some allegations investigated swiftly while others were quietly left untouched? When claims emerged about Meghan Markle's treatment of staff, Buckingham Palace announced a formal review. With Andrew, insiders say the palace braced itself, but nothing followed. No inquiry, no findings, no public conclusions. That contrast has not gone unnoticed, and it has become part of the broader conversation now resurfacing. Andrew's defenders argue that he has already paid the price. His reputation is in ruins, his access to public life is limited, his role within the family is diminished, but critics push back hard against that framing. They argue this is not about punishment, it's about accountability, about whether powerful figures are ever truly scrutinized for how they behave behind closed doors. And that brings us back to the timing. The monarchy is under pressure from multiple directions. Public trust is fragile. Every misstep lands harder than it once did. As the year draws to a close and the royal family attempts to project stability, Andrew's reappearance does the opposite. It disrupts the narrative. It reminds the public of unresolved questions the palace hoped would quietly disappear. So why now? Why risk reigniting controversy when silence was working? Was this a personal decision or an institutional miscalculation? And more importantly, as these allegations return to public view, will they finally be addressed directly, or will they once again be managed until the noise fades? The focus shifts once you look past public appearances and palace optics, because this is where the allegations become far more disturbing. Not in grand, dramatic moments, but in the everyday behavior staff say they were subjected to when no one else was watching.
Buckingham Palace has updated Andrew's name to reflect the loss of his style, titles, and honors, but still lists the 65-year-old as eighth in line to the throne.
According to multiple accounts cited in the rise and fall of the House of York, Prince Andrew was deeply fixated on hierarchy. This wasn't symbolic or ceremonial, it was enforced. Former staff alleged that whenever Andrew entered a room, they were expected to bow, not acknowledge him politely, not greet him. Bow. And if someone failed to do it correctly, Andrew would reportedly stop, leave the room, and then re-enter saying, "Let us try that again." Those who witnessed it say this wasn't humor or eccentricity, it was control. The ritual mattered more than time, comfort, or dignity. And once that tone was set, it shaped everything else about working around him. Staff describe an atmosphere where protocol wasn't just strict, it was weaponized. Minor mistakes could trigger outbursts. One source told Andrew Loney that Andrew's temper could escalate without warning, turning trivial issues into explosive confrontations. There are even claims that, during heated arguments with Sarah Ferguson, staff sometimes had to intervene to calm him down. For aides, there was no safe zone. Even moments meant to be private could spill into the workspace. Then come the dismissals, which many find hardest to rationalize. According to the book, aides were allegedly removed not for poor performance, but for personal reasons that had nothing to do with their jobs. One staff member was reportedly dismissed because Andrew disliked the appearance of a mole on their face. Another was let go for wearing a nylon tie instead of silk. These decisions, if accurate, sent a chilling message. Employment was conditional on personal approval, not professionalism. That uncertainty created a climate of fear. Staff never knew what might offend him next. A choice of clothing, a facial feature, a moment of hesitation. And when livelihoods depend on staying invisible, silence becomes a survival strategy.
He could fly off the handle at the smallest thing. He would be abusive. He would shout. He would swear. We had a particular issue with Prince Andrew.
Other demands described by former staff go beyond strictness and drift into humiliation. One widely cited example involves Andrew allegedly requiring an aide to climb 4 flights of stairs every morning to open his bedroom curtains. This was not due to illness or physical limitation. He was fully capable of doing it himself. The task existed because he expected it to be done for him. It was service for the sake of service. And then there are the accounts that sound almost unbelievable, yet appear repeatedly in insider testimony. A television technician allegedly summoned late at night to explain how a remote control worked. Not because it was broken, simply because Andrew demanded assistance. Police protection officers, paid by the public and trained for security, were allegedly tasked with collecting Andrew's used golf balls or running personal errands entirely unrelated to their role. Some accounts even claim officers were asked to help find women for him. These weren't casual helpers. They were state-funded professionals. And yet, according to those inside the system, they were treated as personal staff. At this point, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. This wasn't about occasional entitlement. It was about authority exercised without restraint. About people being reminded again and again where they stood.
For the officers on the gate, because sometimes they're dealing with things, they're dealing with guests, and he suddenly turns up. Usually we get from his protection officer in the car that who's with him.
What makes this even more troubling is how long it allegedly continued. Many of the staff who described these experiences served for years. Complaints were rare, not because the behavior didn't exist, but because the system discouraged speaking up. Who do you complain to when the problem is a senior royal? And what happens to your career once you do? According to Loney, that imbalance is exactly what allowed the behavior to persist. The palace was structured to contain issues, not expose them. Discomfort was managed quietly. Tensions were absorbed internally, and as long as nothing became public, the system worked. Until it didn't. When these stories began to surface together, they formed something more than rumor. They became a pattern. Independent accounts describing the same conduct, the same tone, the same use of power. And that consistency is what gives them weight. Andrew has denied allegations of bullying in the past, but there has never been a full public investigation into these specific claims. As a result, they exist in a troubling space, not legally tested, yet impossible to dismiss, especially now as his public role continues to shrink. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If these allegations were made today, without royal titles or institutional protection, would they be handled differently? Or does the silence surrounding them say more about the system that allowed them than the man at the center of them? As these allegations resurface, the focus inevitably widens beyond Andrew himself and toward the institution that surrounded him. Because once you step back, the question is no longer just about behavior. It's about response. And more specifically, why some allegations within the royal household triggered formal investigations, while others appeared to stall before they ever began. When claims emerged about Meghan Markle's treatment of staff, Buckingham Palace announced a structured internal review. Statements were issued, lines were drawn. The message was clear: these concerns would be examined. With Andrew, insiders say the atmosphere was very different. According to Andrew Loney, there was quiet concern inside the palace that historical complaints about bullying and profanities might surface. Preparations were made behind the scenes. And yet, no inquiry followed. No findings were released. No conclusions were shared. That contrast continues to unsettle observers because it suggests that status still shaped outcomes long after public trust had begun to erode. Drop a like if you love a bit of royal drama, and subscribe so you don't miss the next tea spill, and share it before your group chat hears it first.
Andrew, is he keeping his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson sweet because she knows where the bodies are buried?
The consequences of this unresolved approach are now rippling outward, particularly towards Sarah Ferguson. While Andrew has largely withdrawn from public life, sources close to the family say the emotional toll is falling heavily on her. Royal commentator Phil Dampier has claimed that friends are deeply worried about her mental health. According to him, Ferguson feels trapped in a cycle of scrutiny she cannot escape, watching old controversies resurface just as she tries to rebuild stability for herself and her daughters. Her position is uniquely painful. She remains linked to Andrew through history, family, and shared children, yet she carries little control over the narrative. Every new allegation pulls her back into headlines she didn't create. And as Beatrice and Eugenie attempt to maintain public roles of their own, the shadow of their father's controversies continues to follow them. For Ferguson, that sense of helplessness appears to be compounding, not easing, with time. But it is the re-emergence of images connected to Jeffrey Epstein that has intensified this moment beyond previous cycles of criticism. In recent weeks, previously unseen or newly circulated photographs have resurfaced, showing Andrew in Epstein's social world. Relaxed, familiar, at ease. While these images do not introduce new legal allegations on their own, their impact has been profound. Visual evidence carries weight in a way words often cannot.
She said she had sex with you 3 times.
No.
No to all of it?
All of it. Absolutely no.
Andrew has consistently denied any wrongdoing related to Epstein. That position has not changed. However, for many observers, the images collide uncomfortably with the accounts given by former staff. Together, they reinforce a broader perception. A man accustomed to power, to obedience, to environments where his authority went largely unchallenged. Commentators have noted that these photographs are no longer being treated as relics of a closed chapter. Instead, they are increasingly framed as part of a pattern that is never fully resolved. Legal experts have pointed out that while denial remains Andrew's legal position, the repetition of these images keeps the controversy alive because they visually echo themes already present in staff allegations. Entitlement, poor judgment, proximity to unchecked influence. There has also been a noticeable shift in how the press discusses Andrew's story. Rather than isolating individual allegations, coverage now connects them. staff treatment, Epstein associations, palace silence, all woven into a single narrative about accountability delayed too long. And once narratives solidify, they are difficult to dismantle.
It's been revealed that Prince Andrew hosted the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell and Harvey Weinstein.
This is why the stories refuse to disappear. They are no longer competing claims. They reinforce one another. Each resurfaced detail strengthens the overall picture in the public mind. Even Andrew's defenders struggle against the sheer accumulation of unresolved questions. From the palace's perspective, this is an ongoing risk. The monarchy is navigating a period of fragile public confidence. Every unresolved controversy weakens the institution's authority. And Andrew's continued presence, however limited, repeatedly drags attention back to a chapter many hoped was closed. Which leads to the question that now hangs over everything. Is this finally a moment of reckoning, where long-standing allegations are confronted openly? Or will it be another exercise in containment, managed quietly until public attention moves on? Because as history has shown, silence can delay scrutiny, but it rarely ends it. And for Prince Andrew, the past appears increasingly unwilling to stay buried. So when you look at the full picture, this story isn't just about one disgraced royal or a handful of disturbing allegations. It's about power, protection, and what happens when accountability is delayed for too long. Prince Andrew may no longer hold titles or official duties, but the questions surrounding his behavior haven't disappeared. They've only grown louder with time. As more details resurface and old images reappear, the public is left to decide what matters more: silence or scrutiny. Should these stories finally be addressed head-on or quietly managed once again? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth royal family coverage.